Ways to address the medical mental illness. Medication, talk therapy, and a well-rounded lifestyle are how I address and keep my severe mental illness in remission. I told you I was diagnosed with bipolar disorder type 1 in 2004 and live with a daily diet of my psych meds, exercise, and purposeful activities. When in an untreated place, though, mental illness can be damaging, and left untreated only gets worse. So, anybody on the panel here, what ways should those undergoing a depressed episode or have been self-medicating or manic or even delusional find help to stabilize themselves? We kind of talked about that, but go ahead.
First of all, there's somewhat of a stigma attached to folks who have any kind of mental illness, or there has been in the past. I don't know that it's as prominent as it used to be, but I remember working in a psychiatric hospital for quite a while and seeing people come in with any number of different things, and medical was definitely a factor in many of those. So depression is, not the least of the kind of problem that they would have. And people have a tendency to self-medicate. Well, so-and-so or my neighbor or somebody else said, well, take this and you'll feel better, and they try that, and of course it doesn't really work. But there's a lot more to it, and just taking medication isn't an answer that will be really beneficial. In the case of someone who is losing or has lost touch with reality, such as someone who has been given a delusional kind of diagnosis that there's a psychosis going on, that requires professional help, okay? Sometimes it requires the services of a psychiatrist who is actually a medical doctor who can offer medication in addition to therapy or make referrals for other therapies. I know a lot of psychiatrists that don't like to do therapy, but anyway, they both can be very helpful at the same time, and sometimes medication continues after therapy is finished, or vice versa, to be able to function necessarily without help.
Good. Yeah, the medication and the therapy
Right.
alongside can give you better results.
In the case of like a mood disorder, there's a physiological component, and it makes it harder for me to reason, to think, to manage my emotions, because my physical body is doing other things that can make it a lot worse.
Yeah, it's all intertwined. Absolutely. So I'm going to open this question up to everybody. What are or mental health professionals, what are usually the avenues of recovery? Talk to me about someone who is starting to become depressed versus someone who's already in a clinical depression and hasn't gotten help yet. So we have somebody who's starting to get melancholy. How do they know they're not completely depressed?
This my answer, I believe, will fit in both of these categories, in that self-medication is not always chemical. I have special training in the diagnosis and treatment of sexual addiction. And I have a lot of fellows that come in to talk to me about an addiction to pornography. Or I have wives come in and say, my husband's addicted to pornography, what do I do? I observe use of pornography as a form of self-medication. Some people shop, some people eat, some people do other things. It's not always chemical. The great thing about being a member of the church, body of believers, is that we should be able, because we were first loved, to love another person and say, have you ever thought about getting yourself some help? Or befriending someone and getting to know them with that in the back of your mind so that you can offer that suggestion. And say, we've been friends for a couple of months now, really enjoyed the times we've had at coffee, but I've noticed something. I see you doing this, or I see you doing that, and.
Practical.
Yeah,
Very good. Yeah, we're gonna get into that actually, in a couple sections about practicality and being a church member. What do you do when another person in your church is experiencing depression? But we got a good, answers for that, ways to address the medical mental illness, so medication, therapy. Do you wanna add something, Pastor Brad, about?
Well, I was just going to say, one of the things that we say in Fresh Hope is you work with your medicine. In other words, your medicine can straighten out some brain chemistry, but it can't change your behavior. And in other words, it will help you think, but you can get into lots of bad behavior. And I do think that one of the things that I believe is the truth is, there's a shortage of psychiatrists, there's a shortage of therapists, clinicians, people who are licensed professionals. And it's very tough to get into them also. And research is now showing that when people have supportive peer-to-peer support, where it's other people with learned experience, they get as well, if not better at times, than they do with talk therapy. While talk therapy is important, and I'm fully respectful of talk therapy, I also know I hold at high value when I hear somebody say, I have this and I have lived well. For instance, when I tell somebody that's newly diagnosed with bipolar disorder, it is possible to live well in spite of having this. I've lived the last 17 years of my life with no episodes. I haven't been hospitalized, I haven't had any interruptions. I've had little things that have happened just like you all have happened. Sad days or bad days or whatever. But when a peer hears somebody else say that, AA has known this for how long? You know, and peers are many times left out of the whole idea of somebody becoming better. It's not just medicine, the pastor and the clinicians, but when you have, otherwise you learn how to be chronically ill. And you learn that also from peers too. And if you're in a day program where there's a lot of sick people that have been chronically sick forever, I swear, I was on the governor's thing in Nebraska as well as, and I said one time when I was speaking, I said, mental illness is catching. If you hang around a whole bunch of people that have been mentally and chronically ill for quite a while, you learn how to behave like them. Who wants their teenagers to hang around with wild kids? Because you know, your kid's going to get to be wild at some point.
Right. Let's move on, because we're on a kind of a schedule here.